This is John Arnold. I'm an independent analyst. My company is called J. Arnold and Associates, and I am happy to be here at the 8x8 booth here at UC Expo 2024 in London. And we are now going to do an interview off the floor, myself with Chris Angus of 8x8. Why don't you introduce yourself, please?
Thanks, John. So it's Chris Angus from 8x8. I'm the Vice President for Contact Center Engagement. So I work with our customers and our partners and people like yourselves just to really look at what's happening in the market and ensure that our customers are getting the best use of our contact center applications.
And we had a roundtable yesterday with about a dozen or so businesses. That they were all there for one reason, and that was to talk about some of the challenges they're having deploying AI, particularly in contact center for CX, but also more broadly too. So let's just maybe talk a bit about what we found there. So we were posing the questions, just talking to people from IT related roles, right? So maybe just get your top line take and I'll add to that.
Yeah, absolutely. So first and foremost, it's a really interesting conversation. And I think one of the two or three things I thought were pertinent from what we spoke about. There was a lot of optimism and people were prepared to step into AI. Everyone was there. Everyone was accepting that this is something that needs to happen. It was interesting to see that there was not clear strategies within these organizations. We heard two or three of the people there to say that these were top-down requirements to implement AI without a clear understanding of what they wanted to do with it. So that was interesting. It's almost like trying to change the tires as the car's going down the road. And that's kind of what they are facing. So it's really interesting for us to try and help them shape their strategies. So that was obvious across the floor. And I also felt that a lot of people were taking AI internally to enhance how their agent experiences before they wrap that into their customer experience. So although we can see people are prepared to adopt these emerging technologies like AI, there was still some quite cautiousness on how to really put it into their customer-facing roles. And as we looked around the room, which is quite a technical IT-based room, and it's a question you posed, we have seen that emergence again of the IT buyer more than your customer experience buyer. And I don't know if you've seen this, but certainly I have. The customer experience leader and your frontline managers have been really heavily involved in buying decisions for technologies, but the complexities of AI and what they mean is put the IT buyers back into that conversation at a real firm layer. And that was something which when we wrapped up, they all kind of agreed with that, yeah, that's right. And a final thing, which one of the banks spoke about, is they were finding it hard to really pinpoint true return on investment from some of these AI initiatives. So the conversations internally were more around, we have to trust the journey and be prepared to look ahead of where it's going to go, even if we can't determine right now what a pound, shillings and pence ROI looks like.
So I'd largely agree with what you were saying there, Chris. The dynamic here is because the IT folks are kind of stuck in the middle because they've got senior management above who just says, we want AI, we want it now. And they have to live with the realities of not just deploying it themselves, but of course, in the contact center, you've got the end users who are actually living with the technology every day on the desktop, trying to figure out how to use these applications. So I think there's a big learning curve, as you say. Yes, it is an ROI story, but it's also more of a journey because AI is so iterative and it's constantly evolving. But I think they understand that certainly AI has a lot of potential, but also the fact that contact center has very, I think, specific use cases and requirements. And it's not always a dollars and cents thing. When we talk about CX, that's a hard thing to measure, but we know it when we see it, right?
Absolutely right. So again, we can't ignore the CX side. The customer experience is what drives all of these things, as we saw yesterday. I mean, within 8x8 side of things and how we like to look at these is, we want to make sure that it's a tool. So AI should be augmentation through AI. It's a tool to enhance the customer and agent experiences. It's not just something which is going to fix all of the problems. So one of the things that we came out of yesterday's session, and I've seen around today and some of the talks I've done, is how do you pinpoint what you're trying to achieve? What's the problem you're trying to solve? And does AI solve that? Or are there other tools that can solve that? And it's not about just chucking good tools after bad. Sometimes people can get excited about the buzzwords and the emerging techs like AI and bot systems, but that isn't necessarily the answer. And that's the thing people are still trying to figure out. That's why, I mean, my personal view is that the customer experience and the use case scenario, as you mentioned, that still should be the driver. And if AI is the right solution, the right tool, brilliant. But if it's not, let's not try and put square pegs in round holes. Let's find another way to make you a champion to your bosses and to your customers.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And I think the key thing for vendors like 8x8 is to really set those expectations properly in the marketplace, because we all think about AI as a bit of a silver bullet, will solve all our problems. And we know that whatever applications or use cases we put in the market today, there's going to be new ones a few weeks from now. And I think that's a new way of thinking about the buying cycle that the IT folks are getting a handle on, to say AI is a continuum. It will just keep evolving. And that's actually a good thing. But that's also putting pressure on IT to be thinking about the buying process in ways they really haven't had to do before. So I think it's a journey for both, right? For the vendors and for the buyers.
Absolutely. I mean, if you just have to look, if you go back to like traditional technologies and the way you'd buy bits of tin for phone systems bolted to your walls, you have ICN systems and voice cards, they've been through that transition already, moving into the SaaS model, which is more license-based modeling. And now what we saw in yesterday's sessions is, from the AI perspective, is that new adoption of consumption-based modeling. There's a whole brand new way of how do you consume the services. And again, at the heart of the IT buyer is looking at, okay, the IT buyer is the one typically having to task with maybe streamline their processes. Maybe they're streamlining costs or tools they're using. But the CX user is looking at, okay, well, I need the right tool to do the right job. I mean, that's one of the things that the vendors like us in 8x8, we look at the CX first. We have our CX tours. I'm sure you've seen some of them in the US. You have ones coming up in London, in Manchester, on the 13th and 14th of November. We're focusing on those areas about what are the changing minds of those buying cycles, and does that impact when people should be looking? It's a fairly new story, but we've seen so far people are getting to grips with it. But I'm interested, I don't know what you think, but I'm interested to see what that uptake's going to be on that consumption-based modeling, because I think that could really shift and really change how people buy these complex technologies, because it really de-risks that decision-making process by making it consumable. Don't know what your take is on that, but I think that's super interesting.
Yeah, I do agree as well, because this is a kind of baby steps approach. Any deployment I've seen with contact center is putting AI in small pieces. And there's a trust factor with AI, and the CX buyers, the CX leaders have to see a benefit. And there's also this varying set. It's not like one thing we're getting here, right? You've got benefits for agents, benefits for supervisors, benefits for end customers, and they all need different applications that AI can help them address. And that consumption-based approach makes it easier to kind of get a few of them done under your belt, step back and see, is this getting results that we're looking for? Because we ultimately want CX to improve. And so we look for indicators of that, and that gives them confidence to go a little further, but also faster on this path. Because that's also what makes this technology so new and different, is that it moves faster than what we've done in the past. So this is not you buy it, you deploy it, and you move on. No, this has to have ongoing care and feeding. But the results, when they show, say, different way of doing things, but you know what? We're getting the results. And that's the game plan, I think, that you're trying to bring to market. And I think, and also they want to see, because these are real challenges that they're not able to solve with the way they've been doing things so far, right?
I totally agree. I think there's an old adage of being a trusted advisor, and I don't want to throw cliches out, but I think that's now, it's so true, because we saw in the room yesterday, and again, I've done a couple of talks over the last few days, is it's still a minefield, and they need to be speaking to somebody who can advise them and coach them, they can trust of what to do next and how to utilize that. And the advice that we give often is to start on the simplest, smallest, least risky use case, learn, build the intent, and then iterate. And that's often internal use cases. And also we've seen things like that we've used machine learning for. It might be employee scheduling. It might be knowledge-based articles. It may just be even agent assistance. You can do those things at a fairly limited risk, really easy to deploy, and then you can build from that. We've seen so far in the uptake of 8x8 AI services, and we partner with Cognigy, we partner with one of the Gartner Magic Quadrant leaders to provide our AI services, and that's a strategic decision we made to give the best of breed to our customers. We're seeing on average customers deploying their second and third use cases within 2 months of the first one going live. So within 2 months of them going live, they're deploying the next one. So it's growing really fast.
Yeah, this is a new way of doing things. And I think when they see those results and they're happy with it, they will be on board pretty quickly. All right, I think it's a good stopping point for now. We've got a busy space around us here, a lot of people at the show. Thank you very much, Chris, for taking part in the interview here.
Thanks again, John, and good to see you. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, you're welcome. You're welcome, and thank you all for listening and being part of it.
For the latest tech insights, visit em360tech.com.